All right, that story there forms the skeleton of our discussion here in studio about the 16 days of activism focusing on child abuse. And joining me is Florence Machio from the Equality Now. Thank you very much for coming. Let's start with the first issue. Children are most likely known to be in the safest place when they are home, when they're in school, when they're with their parents. But most of the times, these are the same people that violate them. What do you have to say about that?
Thank you for having me. We've done, Equality Now has done 25 conversations in 25 schools in Africa. And what we sought out to do is to get the voices of young people around their human rights. So while we went in to hear their views on human rights and their rights as young people, what we got back was very shocking, and it depicts exactly what you've said around the fact that young children are being violated in spaces that ideally should be safe. That means at home, that means in school, that means with people that they trust, including teachers. Yeah. So this has been the bedrock of our 16 days of activism this year, where we choose now to amplify these voices so that we don't keep them silent anymore. So this is true. It does happen.
Yes.
Yes.
So how exactly do you help children speak out? As you said, you're trying to amplify this.
Well, our biggest job as Equality Now is to fight for the rights of girls and women around the world. And our Africa office is to do that in Africa. So while we were celebrating 25 years this year, we chose to give back to the community. And we chose to go to schools. And including in Kenya, we went to schools where we talked to young people. Now, what they gave back was very shocking and very heartbreaking. And I wish we could have had those messages here. But the messages the children shared with us covers FGM, covers sex trafficking, covers incest, covers gang rape, all manner of things, including somebody who is worried. The message we shared the day before yesterday was a child whose own biological father wants to violate her. And so she's in a space where she's asking, what can I do? Because this is my dad. And what I've seen is that we have not put in mechanisms to actually protect children from sexual violence. And when we say sexual violence, we mean child marriage, because when a child is married before 18, it means they're raped every day.
Yes.
And then we have FGM, which you've just alluded to in the previous story, which is also sexual violence. We have sex trafficking, where a child moves from one town to another, presumably to go live with an aunt or a relative for work or something, but then she ends up being violated sexually. We have children who are being violated by their own fathers, and they have no space to say, this is happening to me, please help me. Hence, this week, this coming week, we're going to have a national dialogue on safe spaces for children, just addressing the fact that children are the most vulnerable in our society, and therefore we need to have extra measures to protect them.
You mentioned gang rape, and you reminded me of a story of a girl from Aheru who was gang raped by 7 men. Now, this child knows all 6 of the people who raped her. She went to the police, reported, and she was told to go back home. How do you help such a child?
Now, the onus is not about me or Equality Now helping this child. The onus is on us as a society, on asking ourselves, where have we failed? What mechanisms have we put in place so that this person, having the courage of going to the police station to report that there is a way that there is a trickle effect to the health system, to the justice system, so that she can get support. One of the things we are proposing is to have shelters. If we can have a shelter in each county, it will be a first step. The other thing we are proposing, if we can have safe spaces in school where, you know, a child feels, I can go there and I can say this is about to happen or this is happening to me, so please help me. If we can have that in schools, then we will be helping the children in one way or another. So this young girl who was taken home, who was told to go back home, that is a basic violation of her human rights. She deserves to be protected. She deserves to get health services, she deserves psychological help, because taking her home is not going to help. Yeah.
You've raised a question that I want to pose the same question back to you.
Yes.
Where are we going wrong?
Where are we going wrong?
Yes.
Where we're going wrong is we have beautiful laws, we have beautiful policies. What we've forgotten to do is put money that breathes life into the laws.
Yeah.
If we have the Sexual Offences Act, if I could just pick that as an example, it has several provisions on different issues to do with sexual violence. And, you know, perpetrators can be taken to court once there's evidence, they can be jailed. That is well and good. But what we've forgotten to do is to remember that there's a victim in this place.
Yes.
And worse still, if this victim is a child. If a child who is 12 is violated by the father goes to prison. This child, there's no psychological help offered by the system.
Sure.
What do we think this child is going to end up to? So that is where we have failed. Put money where our mouth is, where our laws are, and breathe life into these laws.
Yes.
Breathe life into structures that actually support victims, and in this case, especially children.
You talked about legal. Our legal systems are known to be very slow. As of now, before all those systems are put in place, where can a child run to?
At the moment, I mean, it's a very interesting question that even as an adult, if you are violated, it is very difficult for you to actually just gather the courage and go and report. And be asked questions of where were you, what were you wearing, those kind of things. Now imagine a 12-year-old, imagine a 10-year-old child, and one still having been raped by the father. So the current mechanism is to go to the gender violence recovery centers, which are available, Kenyatta National Hospital. We have at Nairobi Women's Hospital.
Yes.
We have now recently Mata Hospital, private hospitals now offering gender violence recovery centers and services where you will get, you know, post-exposure prophylaxis, which allows you to be prevented from getting HIV and getting pregnant. But you see, that is offered by other institutions. If the government takes control and takes charge to put money to implement these services, I think we will reach more people.
Yes.
All these hospitals I've mentioned are in big cities. Now imagine somebody in the village. How are they able to reach a local clinic which does not have gender violence recovery facilities? So we need to think beyond what we have now, and now take it a notch higher.
Yeah.
We have what we have, well and good. We have we have the Office of the Public Prosecution, which, you know, offers services to children and prosecution on violations to children. But if we can go further and now take a bolder step, with all stakeholders, then we'll go the right direction.
Yeah.
Maybe I could just infuse a conversation that talks about the fact that if children, for example, can have safe spaces in schools, can we start talking about every teacher in school having, if you are going to be a teacher, having taking the unit of child psychology, so that if I'm in class and I'm a teacher, and there's this child who comes in and there's something that is not right, I'm able to detect.
Yeah.
We can also go a step forward and say, can we have a child psychologist in each school?
Yes.
So that as a child, if I'm afraid to tell teachers, at least I have a neutral person that I can tell. And then this child psychologist connects the dots, supports this child now to go to a gender violence recovery center that is near her, so that we now push the envelope further beyond where we are at.
Okay.
Yes.
So let's start with one. Are the centers free? What are the costs?
At the moment, the ones that are being offered are free. And if we can have all clinical facilities, not just big hospitals, all facilities having gender violence recovery centers, it is great. But even as you're asking me about gender violence recovery centers, my biggest issue is, what about protection? How about we protect before they become statistics to go to the gender violence recovery centers? So if we can focus on protection, which is what the law is supposed to do, then we reduce the incidences where we are counting numbers and saying, oh, we need these facilities to be free, we need them to be available everywhere. Let's focus also on protection. I can tell Kenyans today that we have the anti-stock theft unit, If your car is stolen, there's a unit that actually is trained to track your car to make sure you get it back. But can we have an anti-sexual gender-based violence unit that helps protect?
Yeah.
That if I'm a child and I'm saying I am worried about my father, there's a story of a child who told us, my father raped our house help. And now I'm afraid that he might do that to me.
Yes.
Now, this is the child we need to protect. We don't want to wait until now she's been violated for us to say, okay, oh, there goes another statistic, which is what we usually do. So for us as Equality Now and other partners that are working together is, can we then now protect the most vulnerable? Can we make sure that if I am afraid, there's a place where I can go and be supported so that it doesn't happen?
You talked about teachers. One, teachers are also human beings and they're prone to experience gender-based violence in one way or another. The issue is, this whole issue is stigmatized around the country, around the world. What's the case scenario if a child goes to a teacher and this teacher thinks this is normal? Then what happens?
Hence, I said, one of the things we need to do is, can we then infuse in the curriculum of teachers an element of child psychology? So that if you graduate to be a teacher, you are well versed with child psychology. And then number two, what we are proposing is we have a child psychologist in school, resident. And I've seen this in some private schools where there is a child psychologist resident, which means that then the child can go to the child psychologist and not necessarily the teacher. The teacher's work, if they have a background of child psychology, is to detect that there's something wrong here and then now forward that conversation to a child psychologist who can take it up.
So it all goes back to the government, because either way, public schools cannot afford such things.
No. Yeah. They can afford. What do you mean we can't afford?
You know, as teachers, getting teachers is hard.
No.
Are you a teacher yourself?
No, I'm not a teacher, but I'm a taxpayer.
Yes.
As a country, we cannot keep on saying we can't afford.
Yeah.
What haven't we afforded? We have afforded salaries for MPs even when they increase them.
Yes.
Can we now afford things that make sense to our taxpayers? Can we afford now things that actually make a difference to the life of our children? So we can't say that we can't afford.
Okay.
What is it with public school? It's actually government funded.
Yes.
Therefore, government can fund it. TSC is part of government. Teacher Service Commission. Teachers that are employed by the government. That means it won't cost them to change the curriculum for teachers.
Yes.
It will just cost them to have a child psychologist.
Yeah.
And I don't mind my taxpayers going there. Yes.
Very quickly, if you can tell us, how can we create awareness, not only to urban, but also rural areas? This is where these things are experienced most.
I think once we put structures in place, structures include also awareness creation. Remember when government is ready to give us polio vaccines to our children, there's the chiefs, the village elders, everybody speaks about it. But for me, because we're going to have a national dialogue where all stakeholders, religious leaders, councils of elders, the Jurinchekes, the Luo Council of Elders, the Maasai elders, if every platform is used for us to discuss these issues, people will start coming out and speaking. And then we will push for structures where they're supposed to be. And I only scratched the surface in terms of what needs to be done.
All right.
Yes.
Thank you there, Florence Machio from Equality Now on that discussion. Remember, this is something that can always go on. You should keep your children safe. Find a way of educating them against violence. Remember, the theme for this year of the 16 Days of Activism is Leave No One Behind. All right. That's where we conclude Weekend at 1. Thank you for making time to join us. Up next is Scoreline. I can see Robinson Okenya is already on his way. My name is Ashley Mazuri. Do have yourself a good afternoon.